Cities Homeless Coalition. And I will kick it off with Supervisor Ortiz-Legg, who's going to read the resolution.
Yeah, I am very honored to be able to recognize and read this resolution. Whereas Janna Nichols retires after an esteemed career marked by exceptional leadership, integrity, and decades of service devoted to improving the well-being of individuals and families throughout San Luis Obispo County. And whereas Janna has served as the executive director of the 5 Cities Homeless Coalition since 2012, becoming its first executive director and skillfully guiding the organization from its early development into a trusted, effective provider of services for those experiencing or at risk of homelessness. And whereas prior to her tenure at 5 Cities Homeless Coalition, Janna dedicated 9 years as the Chief Professional Officer for the United Way of San Luis Obispo County, advancing community initiatives that strengthened local services, expanded resources, and supported vulnerable populations. Whereas Janna also served 7 years on the management team at the United Blood Services, now Vitalant, playing a crucial role in ensuring a safe and reliable blood supply for residents across multiple counties, including San Luis Obispo. And whereas Janna's commitment to community health and equity led to the establishment of the Tolosa Children's Dental Clinic in 2003, a vital resource providing dental care to underserved children and continuing to make a lasting impact on youth and families. And whereas Janna's leadership and advocacy have earned widespread recognition, including being honored as the 2023 Women of the Year for the 24th Congressional District by Congressman Salud Carbajal, and as the 2017 Woman of Distinction by Cuesta College and the Women's Legacy Fund for her contributions to advancing the well-being of women and families. And whereas Janna's dedication to public service extends deeply into civic and regional leadership, including service on the county's Homeless Services Oversight Council, as co-chair of the Supportive Housing Consortium, and as founding board member of the San Luis Obispo County Housing Trust Fund, and through 8 years as chair of the City of San Luis Obispo's Human Relations Commission. Whereas under Janna's guidance, the 5 Cities Homeless Coalition has expanded its reach and impact, providing wraparound case management, direct financial assistance, and housing stabilization services that empower individuals and families to build long-term self-sufficiency and stability. Whereas Janna has exemplified compassion, collaboration, and steadfast commitment to serving the most vulnerable members of our community, leaving a legacy of strengthened partnerships, improved systems, and changed lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved in order that the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Luis Obispo, State of California, does hereby honor and commend Janna Nichols upon her retirement from the 5 Cities Homeless Coalition, extends its deepest gratitude for many years of dedicated service, and recognizes her lasting impact on the health, housing stability, and well-being of communities throughout San Luis Obispo County.
I have known you for almost 10 years now. It has been a pleasure and an honor to work underneath you. I'm going to cry. When I met Janna almost 9 years ago, joining the 5 Cities Homeless Coalition, she always called the organization the little engine that could. And that little engine had a fantastic conductor. I don't think we're a little engine anymore. I think we're more of a steam train, but we could not have gotten there without your leadership and your guidance. You always pushed us as your staff to think outside of the box and come up with creative solutions, and I think that's the core foundation of the work that we do. We always say yes when everything around us is saying, no, don't do this. You've always kept the person that we are serving at the heart of your work. I can't speak for Star, but I do know we have recognized 2 titans, in the industry that are retiring today. But I know Janna doesn't like fishing, so she's not going anywhere. So I'm really grateful. Again, you have been a wonderful mentor, you have been a friend, but I know this isn't the last we will see of her. Community work and advocacy and serving the most vulnerable populations are not something that just go away with retirement. So I'm excited to work with you in a new capacity, and I'm grateful for all you've done for me personally and our organization.
This is difficult. So when I moved to San Luis Obispo County, I didn't know a soul. And my husband had a long legacy of people he knew. It was his town. And quite honestly, I'm from Oregon, and California, an Oregonian never moves to California. So I had to kind of find my way, and eventually came to the realization we were sticking around and that this needed to be my community. So then you have the conversation with yourself as to what does that mean? Am I gonna join the Kiwanis? How do I make a difference? And by fortune, I have had the opportunity to work for the good guys for more than 30 years. I like doing good work, but more importantly, I like doing it with you all. It is a testimony to our community that when we come together to solve a problem, we can make a difference. The Tolosa Dental Clinic came about when United Way had a Success by Six program that was a precursor to First Five. And we knew that we couldn't do it alone. So we brought the Partnership for the Children in. We brought in the then Community Health Foundation. We brought in the newly created Community Foundation, San Luis Obispo County. And together we went together and sought funding through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and leveraged the first funding for the clinic because our county didn't have those funds. And I think as I look at my career and the work that we have done together, that is just one example. Obviously, the work we've done at Five Cities Homeless Coalition and creating the first non-congregate shelters in the county took courage and commitment and a little bit of trust and luck in order to make it all happen. And it didn't happen without all of us coming together and seeing an opportunity to serve together, bringing our ideologies together, bringing our hearts together. And that's what I would ask for us moving forward. At United Way, we used to have a philosophy, come one, come all. Bring all of your thoughts, all of your ideologies together, and let's find a common purpose where we can all make a difference. And that is, I think, a testimony to how we work in our county, and everyone here in the room has had that same effect. When we can put differences aside for common good, really amazing things happen. And so I'm very grateful for this. I'm grateful for my friends to be here. My husband would have been here, but he had a medical appointment. That's a good thing. And I appreciate just the ability to have embraced this community as a transplant from Oregon. Thank you.
Department of Social Services Director Devin Drake would like to make some remarks.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good morning. My name is Devin Drake, Director of Social Services. Thank you for taking this time to recognize and honor Janna. Through my career, I've come across a handful of people who just embody the work that they do. And they're not there for simply the paycheck, or they really enjoy the job, or passes time for them or whatever, but it is just who they are. And it was interesting, as Supervisor T-Sleg was reading about her history and work, you can just see this is who she is. And she's passionate about it. And if any of you have been on the receiving end of one of her passionate talks, she's persuasive as well too. And when I first came here and met with her, and she sat me down and gave me a good talk. At that time, we had one person, and they had an administrative assistant who was working on homeless services for as the unit per se. And she expressed there's a need for more county involvement. So I became the third member of that unit and attended a lot of meetings. It was very interesting. She instructed me on a lot of things. I learned a ton. And over the years, as we built up the unit and then eventually, as we turned it into the Homeless Services Division, Janna was there. She was a critical part of that. And then when we were ready to do a true 5-year plan on homelessness, Janna was there and instrumental in that. She's just passionate about these things, and it's great to see. With HMIS, when we were upgrading that, Janna was there. And so it has been wonderful to work with you, Janna. You will be missed. We're grateful that you have prepared Devin for filling in your shoes. And then one little side note that wasn't mentioned in there, if you're ever planning a trip to Costa Rica, call Janna. She lived there before. Great advice. So again, thank you, Janna. Hope to see you around.
Lauren Ramos. And then we'll go to Jack Leahy, and if anybody else wants to speak, please fill out a speaker slip. Thank you.
Chair Paulding, rest of the supervisors, thank you for allowing this. I'm gonna go a little bit different of a route. I prepared more of a roast. No, just kidding. A little bit, okay? There's a few people that really understand this and get this and really live out the idea that we are advocates first, service providers second. I grew up on the Central Coast, but had a 20-year career somewhere else before coming back here. And when I got here, I knew nothing about anything in this community besides what I knew from 20 years ago as a child. And within weeks, I had a meeting set with Janna. I didn't set the meeting, she set it with me. But it goes to her point even about this being her community, and she really wanted to make sure I was on board and knew everything. And so I figured I was just going to a meeting at her office. Within 3 minutes of walking in the office, we were in her car driving around. She was showing me everything in South County related to homeless services, nonprofits, everything. We're out and about. It wasn't what I expected for that meeting, but it just goes to show how much she cares about our community. And I know she will continue to do that. And then it really set in that she was one of the real ones. One of those real people that you could trust was gonna just tell you how it is. When we had that HSOC meeting and that work group, and you had the sticky notes and the little things that you were putting on it, and you were voting on things, and it was strategic planning-ish, and we were going through it. And Janna just took one of the big white sticky notes and put "find more $" and put it on the wall. And I was like, well, that's pretty pragmatic. That's probably what we need to do. We don't need to cut services. So I just appreciate all the conversations we've had over the last 5 years being here back in my hometown and being able to do this work with you and how real you have been. And I know those conversations won't stop, so I appreciate you. Yep.
Jack Leahy.
Well, this is amazing. I was going to try to, not prepare any words or anything for Janna, but I realized I would have ranted here for 20 minutes and asked for more time and more time and more time and more time. So I have something I wrote down. There's a line from Toni Morrison that says, "The function of freedom is to free someone else." And it makes me think of Janna. It makes me think of the work that she did in the Santa Maria riverbed, showing up again and again with her team, not with recognition, sometimes against the grain. But she would stay, organize, listen, and bring people in. That's how I've seen Janna lead. She frees people by refusing to look away. Janna is a leader with values, substance, courage. All of us know that. As Devin said, from the little engine that could to the steam engine, I think that that's so apt. Janna grew 5 cities to be a full continuum of care unto itself in the South County, which is no small feat. Janna, one of the more interesting things, and I'm going to disclose something that you used to manage cruise ships, if that's okay. And it makes sense somehow, and it's amazing because moving from that to running shelters is a transition, but it makes sense because, you know, coordination, responsibility, care for people, when things get messy, adapting and making sure that people do have a good experience, that's always been the steady hand of Janna. There's a lot of stories, like I said, I could tell, but I had to prepare my notes so I didn't rant. One that always sticks with me out of them was a 30-person farm worker family fleeing cartel violence, entering our system. Housing felt completely impossible, and it was thanks to Janna and the 5 Cities team sticking with that family and finding housing for them in its entirety, and it was amazing. And on a personal level, I mean, Janna was key to my own adjustment in working in SLO County. She pushed me when I needed it, called me out, which we all appreciate about her, and always had an eye for the collective good. She would always tell me, yes, Jack, that's an issue. Yes, that's a problem, but there's something deeper there, or there's a context here you're missing. And that's something I always value and love about Janna, and with, you know, hope to still have. Last thing, Hemingway described courage as grace under pressure. And again, like, I'm feeling very poetic, but it just, these things remind me of Janna, and I think of her whenever I read these things. So I consider you a dear friend and a mentor, and we'll miss working with you directly in 5 Cities, but hope to work with you more.
Okay, any other members of the public wish to make a comment on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board. Supervisor Ortiz-Lake.
Well, first off, I'm really proud to be a baby boomer today because we got some amazing people retiring, doing incredible work. I mean, you're Dr. Graber, you, the ladies from Tolosa, just really doing a lot for this community. And, you know, Janna, when it comes to what you've taught us, I'm so grateful. It was really instrumental. And it didn't come from just your wisdom and your experience on the cruise ship, but it also came from a really painful experience with the church and trying to create a shelter in South County many, many years ago, and how traumatic that was. Being a person who really wants to bring community together and then having kind of a backlash when people weren't ready and having to go through that and understand that. I think those of us in leadership roles continue to learn those lessons and how hard it is, how bringing folks in to really difficult conversations and situations in order to help better the community is the goal, but somehow people can't hear that. And I really just, I know that from that experience, you were really holding our hand at the county as we were building the Cabins for Change and having it be the first community for us that we were engaged with that was giving individuals their own place. And your understanding, your pragmatism, you're teaching us how to understand the populations that we're working with and that they're community members, our neighbors, that they're so much a part of us and just continually being there for us. And as the guys from Capslo said, picking up the phone and pulling us by the ear and saying, hey, you know what's going on here? Are you paying attention? And I'm really grateful for that. Thank you. I think that my favorite quote from you, and it's one that I don't think is said enough, but it's really important for people to understand, is that you said, quote, "It's amazing how a closed door can change a person's life." And a lot of people don't understand that. But when it's explained in the sense of, do you know what it's like to be out there with not having a private place to sleep, to use a restroom, to have your own security, to know that you're safe? It is a dignity-changing concept that is, it sounds really simple, but it's incredible. And it hasn't been so simple to execute for us, but we're getting there. And it's because of you that we're able to change people's lives by giving people a closed door to heal, to rest, to begin to get stabilized and to take on the world. That's the hard place to be oftentimes. But with you in it, it's made a huge difference. So thank you for your success. Thank you for your leadership.
Supervisor Pichon.
I just want to thank you for the job you've done. It's a very difficult job that you've had over the years, and you've done it with grace. But you've seen people at their worst, and you've seen people at their best. And so thank you for making them at their best.
Supervisor Moreno.
Yeah. Janna, I wrote down, you said when you had moved here and kind of finally decided, okay, I need to make this my home, the question you asked is, how do I make a difference? That's incredible. Not everybody would ask that question. So thank you, because you have made, obviously, by what everyone has said, an incredible difference. And thank you for your dedication and commitment to those who are so vulnerable, and really laying a foundation for more to come. Thank you.
Supervisor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Janna, on this day where we have celebrated a lot of folks who have worked for others, I think it's fitting we capped this morning with your recognition of your extraordinary career. And so let me say thank you for all the work you've done for those that you serve and for those that you serve with. I want to add my personal thanks because in our interactions on the topics that you're so passionate about, there was never an instance where your opinion was not absolutely crystal clear. Ambiguity is not in your vocabulary, and the standard to which you would hold those of us who get to vote on what was always right there on the table. I'm disappointed that we couldn't always live up to what was so obvious, what we needed to do, but your directness and your courage for explaining that to us will forever be appreciated. So.
I too want to acknowledge your candor and the good conversations that we've had, and I appreciate all of that honesty and really putting the pressure on us when we need that pressure, Janna. And to Jack's point, 5 Cities Homeless Coalition has become the de facto continuum of care in South County, and your organization has grown and it thrives, and it is impacting people in our community in such a positive way. I like to share the story of Joey, of whom you know. I met him at the Stone Soup Festival when he was homeless, when he was not sober. Recently, saw him at the Blako on Barco project. He showed me his room, his bed, modest, but everything he needed. And recently he reached out to me and said he is now housed in Morro Bay. And so that's exactly what we're doing here. What you're doing and what you have done in the community is providing these pathways to get people back on their feet. And I really, really just want to extend my appreciation for your leadership and for your note about finding common ground. I think we need that more than ever right now. And I want to mention, too, that while Janna is retiring, she's already reached out to Supervisor Ortiz-Leg and I, offering to serve on the immigration task force that we just formed. So thank you so much for your many years of service to our county, and we continue to look forward to working with you. Let's give her a round of applause. Yeah.